Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to introduce our panel. Some of you may have joined the previous session. I know a number of new faces are in here. So although we were lucky enough to hear from Richard, we'll introduce him so you know his background. So Richard Goodman leads networking, security and transformation for the John Lewis Partnership. He's been with the John Lewis Partnership since 2015, has more than 17 years experience in networking, security, transformation, infrastructure and services. Yep. Richard, could you just give us a bit of background on your focus at John Lewis? And for those that don't know the John Lewis Partnership, perhaps just a brief introduction.
Yeah, so the John Lewis Partnership has 50 John Lewis department stores across the UK and has 350 supermarkets, which is Waitrose, across the UK, and it's got about 80,000 partners, and that partners actually own all of the John Lewis Partnership, so we're a very unique kind of company. And our focus, certainly over the last couple of years, has been around doing the digital, the cyber and the customer experience transformations across our branches. But how do you align that to make sure that's aligned back to the business objectives that are driven by the board? And so what I covered off in the last session was that just how we've approached that and how we've combined those programs to make sure the security is embedded across the piece.
Thanks, Richard. Frick Boscher is from the NHL University in the Netherlands, one of the largest universities, 75,000 students or thereabouts. Frick, correct me if I'm wrong. 25,000, and roughly a tenth of that number, 2,500 staff.
Yeah.
So Frick, perhaps you could, other than correcting me on the numbers, give me a bit of background on the university and your role.
Yeah, okay. Well, those 25,000 students are from January 1st, when we just into a move from 2 universities into 1. So therefore we have 15,000 students and 1,200 staff. We're located in the northern part of Holland, and because we joined the other university, we're now also located in South Africa, Dubai, and 2 other places. So that's also an interesting security issue coming up. The main focus we had last year, or the last couple of years, was ransomware. We had a major ransomware outbreak for 2 years, and what I think and what I find is that people don't think of talking about ransomware. They're still there. They want to keep it inside, and in my point of view, you should be more open with it and say, we have it, how do we deal with it, and how can we help each other?
Very good, thanks Frick. Martin Kerford. Martin is from JN Data in Denmark. JN Data is one of the largest IT operations centers in Denmark, focused particularly on the financial services industry. Martin, a few words from you on your role and JN Data.
Yeah, as you said, I'm with JN Data, which delivers infrastructure for more than 200 banks in the Nordics. Even though Denmark is a small country, apparently we need a lot of banks. But around 55% of the infrastructure in Denmark is handled through us. And my department, Operational Security, was formed last year to strengthen the handling of security incidents first level. So our priority at the moment is to raise our maturity within that area, and we are on a journey to strengthen our effort to combat the threats. Also to handle all the compliance requirements that we are met with as being part of the financial industry in the world.
Very good. Okay, thank you. We hear a lot and we talk a lot about the shortage of cybersecurity talent in the industry and the challenge that presents to organizations. I'd be very interested to hear from each of you. First of all, is this real? Do you encounter the cybersecurity talent shortage in your roles? And if so, how are you going about mitigating that particular problem? If we could start with you, Richard.
Yeah, so at John Lewis, last year we invested very heavily in security operations team. and obviously within the market it's very challenging getting the right people, but also the right skills and for the right money. So security operations is accelerating in costs, and so the way we approached it is that we have a huge contingent of IT people within our business. They understand our business, they understand our IT systems, and so by building a cybersecurity academy and moving much more towards a pathway rather than just a training academy, they now can actually move on to looking at how do they become a cybersecurity professional. And I use that word very loosely on professional, but moving to understanding, do they want to go and specialise in forensics? Do they want to go and look at security operations and predict and respond? And by setting that up along with a number of the vendors, Cisco being one of them, but also a lot of the others and a lot of the Ethical Hacking Council, what we've done is we've brought through people who have been on our service desk, who started in our stores, and they're now going on to be trained across that. And that's how we're combating it, is that we're doing it in-house, we're training the people, we're giving them the support, we're giving them the ability to be able to grow their careers, and giving them rewards within the partnership.
That's a really interesting approach. So essentially you're being super proactive and you're taking control of the issue yourselves, giving you the benefit of trained professionals that are coming up through the ranks, and of course presumably also increasing their career opportunities within the John Lewis Partnership, so they don't necessarily need to go elsewhere when they're at the next step for their career.
Yeah, and so the partnership believes that not everybody will stay with the partnership forever, but giving that person that career opportunity, obviously we want them to stay and retain them, but if they go on, then hopefully they'll come back with that experience. And so, looking at your network teams where you have very skilled people that have reached the top of their career within the network team, giving them that ability to be able to now shift into a new space instead of moving on to another company to do something different. That was absolutely critical for me. So, some of the people that have joined our team are CCIE level people, and they're now retraining or essentially now moving their skill set onto looking at deep packet inspection or forensic analysis and hunting, whereas before they would never have thought about that. And so giving that person the ability to be able to do that means they're interested, they're further in their career, and they're likely to stay.
Right. Yeah. Very, very interesting approach. Frederik, of course, being a university, in theory, you should have access to talent right on your doorstep. So, from a university standpoint, is this a challenge for you, or less so because of that talent on the doorstep?
Well, I think it's still a challenge, and it's more or less to do with the priority security gets into the university. We just had a discussion with how many people are with my staff. I have to say I'm the only security officer within the university. So, of course, we do have some technical staff, and yes, we have some. We are an educational institute, and we have security within the colloquium. We do have other security people within the organization, but they're teaching students about security, and we use them. I always encourage our students, please test our network, please try to get in.
You're a brave man.
And then, but also please tell me what's wrong,
Right.
because we can learn and you can learn, and from that perspective, you have to be in good contact with the students and with the teachers and the lecturers, and that's something which can be tough because every teacher has his own company and is quite. Every teacher knows what's best for them.
Strong opinions.
And have strong opinions, yes, they do.
Yeah.
But you can get used to it, and you can use it.
Okay.
And we do.
Good. Thanks, Frederik. Martin, JN Data, do you find it challenging to find the right talent that you need when you need it?
Definitely, yeah. Both within security, but also in the infrastructure area in general. I don't think it's issue that we only see in the Nordics and in Denmark, where I come from, but we have taken the decision last year to expand our office also to be located in Warsaw in Poland, to be able to enhance our recruitment area. In Denmark, we are located in two different areas of the country, even though it's a small country, close to the capital and close to one of the bigger university cities in Denmark. But also, as Richard mentioned, we try to find talent within the organization from service desk area, different infrastructure departments, and train them to have their capabilities enhanced in order to make them cyber security professionals. So definitely within the organization also, I find that a lot of the co-workers within JN Data find it interesting to go into the cybersecurity area and find it as a career path to go down on, and that's quite interesting. And I have a lot of happy colleagues in the team, and more is joining. So within the last year, I think more than 3/4 of the team have been internal recruitments. And that's a big benefit for me, because when we start working with cybersecurity, incident response and all, it's a great benefit that the colleagues already know the change procedures, the variety of platforms that we are operating in, instead of using 3 to 6 months to train a new recruitment, a new hire, until they are fully functional and self-driven.
Right. Okay. Very good. So similar approach to John Lewis, in the sense that you're building the talent within the organisation and providing career opportunities to keep them.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. One of the challenges that we hear about from many of our customers is related to the relative immaturity of the cybersecurity industry if you compare it to other parts of the technology industry, and the fact that it is incredibly fragmented with so many different players. You go to a cybersecurity event in the industry and you see literally hundreds of vendors that are there. The challenge that presents to you as cybersecurity professionals is, how do you develop an effective security posture, potentially using a very large number of security products and solutions from different vendors, which were not necessarily designed from the outset to work together. So how do you find the right balance between, enough products and solutions potentially from different vendors that might not work smoothly together, and achieve an effectiveness that is not overwhelming in terms of its complexity? So what is that balance, and how do you address it? And also, what do you expect from the industry to perhaps do a better job of helping to address that? Richard, if I could start with you.
Yeah, so I think vendor sprawl has been a big problem across the whole of infrastructure, not just cybersecurity. It's always been a big challenge. And it's an even bigger one now with cyber, and got everybody coming at you with all these different solutions. But the way we approached it is that we have very clear business definitions, we have very clear capabilities that we want to deliver, and then within those capabilities are broken down into subsections to say, these are the areas that we need to cover off to be able to do that protection. We're very picky around the products, obviously, we use, but we look at it from an operational point of view. So having been in operations, architecture and delivery, and then run those teams, I know how important it is from an ops point of view that you don't have 25 antivirus products across your estate, and then you can't manage them. So you might be going back to the board and say, don't worry, we're protected against malware or ransomware. But if you've got 25 different versions, you're not, because you are not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to see them. You're not going to be able to support them. So I think selecting the right product is a tough challenge. But I think where you've got to be very clear is, what is the capability you're trying to deliver, and what are the threats you're trying to mitigate by delivering that capability. But to do that, you need to understand your assets. So you need to understand your data assets, your hardware assets, and your software assets, and your people assets, to be able to then understand where are the vulnerabilities and the threats, to be able to then say, this is the capability that's going to help us to do that. And then, looking across the vendors, which there might be 50, you then need to look at how that's going to integrate in from whether that's an automation platform, or whether it's, you've got an incumbent vendor, are they the right vendor, is there one better out there for your operations team? Because if you start layering cost as well, at some point the business will then challenge you to say you need to take cost out. And so it is a balancing act that we've all got to do, but you just need to be clear on what you're trying to do.
Right. Okay. Frick.
Yeah, as a university, we need to be open. We have an open view. I always say our internal network is an extension of the internet, and we can't predict which devices will be inside. Today it's an Apple, tomorrow it's something else, and the day after tomorrow will be something else. What I found it's important is how the security solutions can work together, and preferable with open standards, and it can lead into a way that not the best solution for one particular subject is implemented, but just a combination of solutions from the beginning from the network till the endpoint client gives you the best solutions. And that's our main focus for now. As I said, we had 2 years ago, we had a major ransomware outbreak. We asked our supplier, hey, please help us, because we couldn't deal it, and it was just before exams, and it almost lead that exams couldn't go through, and so we had to make a solution. And luckily Cisco had the way, which also had an architectural view about security, so not only just from a single point solution, but an integrated view, more or less open, can always be better, but more or less open, because we do have firewalls not from Cisco, and they should work together in just one way.
Okay, so that's good to hear that you expect a credible vendor to have an architectural approach and just not look at it from a pure product standpoint. Very good. Martin, what's the perspective at JN Data on the challenges of integration?
Well, we look very much into being able to implement the solution end-to-end. In a financial perspective, we need to offer service to our customers that is reduced in ways of how many people we need to actually manage all the different solutions. So if we, for instance, have multiple AV vendors, we could expect that we would then also need additional hands to actually run the solution. That will raise the cost of maintenance. So when we look to invest in new solution and propose that for the investment board that we need the solution, we definitely look into being able to implement it end to end, and then have an implementation plan that actually goes deep, so we have all the benefits implemented in the investment. I've been with JN Data for 2 years, and not to point fingers at my company, but I have seen additional investments in the years where we have made the investment, but the implementation has failed or has been postponed. So we have a lot of solutions on the shelves, but we haven't actually taken the utilization and brought them into value. So instead of just buying all the different services and products, we are quite selective, and when we have the investment, then we go for the implementation plan and go end-to-end. So all 35,000 seats are covered with the solution. That's the mission for my area, at least.
Right. Okay. Very good. Questions from the audience? Yes, can we have a microphone to the gentleman, please, on its way?
Thank you. So, for the university, how do you manage bring your own device from the security perspective?
Yeah, that's a good question, thank you. And that's a big issue, because all the students have their own, and they're mostly not Windows, although they think sometimes we only have Windows devices. We do have some stuff in place. We have endpoint security, but endpoint security, because we don't manage those bring your owns, we have to put it in one layer above. And if the security and the admittance to data is more or less arranged towards the data, and everybody can add our network, can enter our network, and if they have more security programs in place, they can do more things on our networks and can more access our data. We do have a cloud-only strategy, so most of our data will be in the cloud in the next coming 3 or 4 months. So the security can be layered to that cloud, and everybody with an HTML browser should get access to that, and that makes life easier.
So you do not touch in any way the student device. You do not install anything on the device.
If they give us rights to do, they can, and that's what I meant. Then they have another layer of security already on their device. We're thinking about implementing ICE, so we get more. We need more. We know more about the device.
And may I one more question?
Yeah, one more, please.
How come there are no IT-sec talents, but the attacks are growing? Maybe the talents are in another place.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, if you didn't hear it, we know the threats are increasing, and there's a shortage in talent. Why is there this lag? If there's more demand out there and more need, why are we not seeing the corresponding increase in available talent? Is it a time lag? What do you think, Richard?
I think it's more about people focusing. So whereas before a lot of people are focused around investment in the network or investment in infrastructure, those people have been concentrating on developing their careers around going for CCIE or that side of it. Whereas now the big topic is cyber, so now you've got a big swing. Cyber's always been there. It's just now it's much more publicised. And people are much more focused, and I think that where the shift with business is, with things like GDPR coming in, with the ramp up of PCI and all the other attacks, and how much it's now broadcast within the papers. I mean, you can't pick up a paper these days that hasn't happened. I think that focus around from a companies has now shifted from we're just going to do infrastructure to now we've got to do security. And so that's where there's always going to be a lag between that. And if a new product came out tomorrow, which was on the market to take it by storm, there'd still be a lag to get the training up to spec on that. It's just that now we're behind the curve. We've got to somehow find, as an industry, we've got to find how do we get above the curve and then keep it, because those threats are continually shifting. And we've got to keep it dynamic and fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. And Frigg, from an education standpoint, the courses within your university that are associated with cybersecurity, are you seeing an increase in demand and also offerings that the university is providing?
As far as I know, just want to say is there is no major increase in students who wants to do security, and perhaps it's not fancy enough, and that's an issue. GDPR is coming, and most of the students are getting aware with it, and although it can always be better. So I think there is a role for universities and for educational in general to pinpoint people to the jobs they are laying there,
Yeah.
and the opportunities you can get.
Yeah. Martin, anything to add?
Yeah, prior to being Jane Data, I was head of the Danish National Police High-Tech Crime Unit, so I have seen a lot of talent in my previous job. Unfortunately, sometimes it was not the best talent because they were the one getting caught. I think that there's a lot of talent out there which are undiscovered, not by police, but in general. I think that the companies have an obligation to go and self better. The universities have an obligation to go into and actually explain where a future career could be. I have seen a lot of young people getting into trouble because they were using the internet as a playground. Potentially talented people which could be of interest for a future career within my own company or other companies, but unfortunately they get arrested or known to the police, and that could disrupt their ability to work within the area. So I think that we have an obligation as an industry to go out and sell the area better, create education tracks within Master of Science or something like that. So actually improve the talent and not let them use the companies as a playground, which is seen quite often.
Yes, interesting. And I think you're right. As an industry, we do have a responsibility, and at Cisco, we're investing not only in the courses, but also providing cybersecurity scholarships to help those that do have the interest, but don't necessarily have the financial resources. But inevitably, I think you will see this time lag, because what we're trying to do with students today is obviously only going to filter up through organizations over a period of years, rather than something that we can have a knee-jerk reaction to. So, we can look at addressing the issue, but it will of course take time until we see a corresponding increase with, projections of 2 to 3 million open positions over the next few years in the industry. So it'll take a while. Are there other questions from the audience here? Yes. Microphone here, please, second row.
Yes, thank you. In my understanding that to overcome the scarcity of the talent in the security, your approach is to more build the internal talent. What's your opinion by using the security as a services, because that's a services that also offered to more company to build their capability also? What do you think?
Richard, do you want to? So, John Lewis Partnership building talent within their own organisation so that they can take more control, and then of course JN Data, who are providing the cybersecurity operations essentially to other organisations. Were you wanting an answer more from John Lewis or from JN Data in terms of offering cybersecurity as a service to other organisations?
Both, if possible.
Okay.
Yeah, so John Lewis wouldn't offer, so we wouldn't offer cybersecurity to other companies, but where we've approached it is we looked across the talent pool, so pay is going up in cybersecurity. We have a lot of talent internally, and where we have very clear career paths for all of our partners, we want to invest in those partners to make them loyal. We want to show them there's a future career within the industry. And coming to your point about how do you make it attractive, and that is the investment. That's also getting the vendors to come in. So we work very, very closely with the likes of Cisco, but also all the other vendors to show some of this stuff that is absolutely fantastic about how you can do it, but also how easy it is to actually impact on that person. So we did a roadshow where we actually showed how easy it was to hack IoT toys. And so they brought in a doll and they hacked this doll, and the amount of people within the audience that said, well, I've got that doll for my child for Christmas, and you're sat there, well, maybe you need to go and throw it away. And we work very closely with those kind of pen testers that then show that, because then it actually relates back to that person. And what we've found is by doing that, it then makes cyber interesting, and they want to go and do something about it. And how do they get involved? And so when we advertised internally, we had 20 positions internally available. We had over about 50 applicants straight away, and they were coming from service desk all the way through to senior network people. And by doing that, you've now generated a pool of people that you can then go on and train.
Martin.
Yeah, could you please repeat the question?
Well, so it's about the shortage of talent and what we can be doing. In your case, of course, you're providing cybersecurity talent to other organisations who by virtue of engaging your services, perhaps don't need to invest to the same extent in their own cybersecurity talent. So you're essentially making your business out of providing that capability to organizations that don't necessarily have the means or potentially don't have the desire to make that kind of investment. So how do you offer your expertise as potentially a solution to your customers for their own cybersecurity talent challenges?
Well, at the moment we are on a strategic journey to be a commercial partner. At the moment we are customer owned, so our customer is driving our way forward. But we are on the verge of switching over to a more commercial side of that, and also to become a service integrator, so that we all manage the services between the end user and external third-party vendors. So not necessarily take all the security areas within ourselves, our own company, but maybe like a cooperation with Cisco or other vendors, integrate the services provided from them, because it is believed within the company that outsourcing is a way forward in this area, because we can't find the talent needed to provide the services that our customers demand if we look 3 to 5 years ahead. The demands in areas of compliance, the demands, the risk towards the financial sector demands a more enhanced focus on cybersecurity. So already now, but also in the years to come, we will look more into service integration with a cooperation with external partners, and not necessarily only make recruitment within the company.
Thanks, Martin.
Okay. So how about bug bounty programs? Do you also, from your perspective, set up bug bounty programs? Because to your question, that could actually help to move that security talent from the dark side to the good side, right? Because they can actually make money from being a white hacker, a white hat hacker.
At the moment, no. We have talked about it, but I think also as we are customer owned, it is a big step forward for a bank, relative small bank in Denmark, to offer bug bounties. But it is definitely something that we are looking into. Also seeing large enterprises like Google and others providing that sort of offering. So, but it had not been taken into use yet.
Yeah, I guess as well as the responsible disclosure programs, right? Because a lot of companies then sue the hackers. So if we can actually, have those responsible disclosure programs, again, we can move more hackers to the good side. Yeah.
So what I'd like to know from each of our panelists before we close, we know that the perception of cybersecurity within organizations can be quite varied, and within some organizations, cybersecurity is perceived as being an inhibitor to the business. It gets in the way of growth projects, costs money, and doesn't seem to provide any real tangible business benefit. So I know each of you have made tremendous progress within your own organizations in shifting that perception. For those in the audience would like to know how you've done that. What would be your advice to get to a point at which, well, actually, there's two elements to this question. First of all, how well do you think you're doing in terms of the perception of cybersecurity as a business enabler within your organization? And what advice would you give to the audience in terms of how you can make that progress so that you're seen as adding to the business rather than just telling everyone no and costing a lot of money? Richard?
In the presentation before, I covered off that going and getting the ball buying is absolutely critical, but explaining to them that there is no new crime. So we've had crime around, especially within the retail industry, for a long period of time, and they've invested huge amounts of money in trying to prevent that crime or to reduce the risk of that crime. And now that's just switched to a new name, which is data theft, as opposed to or ransomware or all the others, opposed to you need to invest in this. Help them to understand that by aligning your digital, your cyber and your customer experience programs, which they will all have across retail, back to your business objectives, and combining those to ensure that security is embedded across all of those programs rather than individual silos for delivery, architecture and operations, will help to have that success. Where do I think we are? We're on a journey. I think everybody's got a long way to go. But I think that what we've done is that we've changed where it was before. If those programs delivering in silos, we've built the teams internally, the programs have come together, we've got the right teams in place from a network team, from an operations point of view, from a delivery point of view, and then we've built the SecOps to be able to do that, and we've embedded security as part of that culture, which we're now taking out to all of our partners for security awareness. Because ultimately human is still the big problem, and we can put all of these controls in place, but if you still have that one person who goes and clicks a link that then takes down a WannaCry or whatever, it's still a massive issue.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a silver bullet around that, but we've certainly got the buy-in from the board, and I think that's step one. Now you need to get the buy-in from everybody else within your organisation to understand that security is their responsibility, and it won't just impact the company you work for, it'll also impact you personally.
Very good. Good advice. Thanks. Frick.
Yeah, thanks to our ransomware outbreak 2 years ago and some data leakage we had in the past 2 years, it became more on the agenda of the board, and I think that's important. You need to get the board involved and take them along on the road you have to take. We are on the road, as you said before. Although one thing I want to mention is, get your people involved, and especially in the university, where we get every year we get thousands of new students, we got new employees, we got new teachers. You need to work every quarter to awareness. Awareness is 80, in my opinion, awareness is 80 to 90% of the solution. Technically, you can build a network which is secure. I always say dig a hole about 20 meters and put your systems in there, then you get a secure system. But the key point I want to say here is awareness, awareness, awareness. And you have to work constantly on that awareness. We just started with an awareness campaign, and just to take the people with us on the road, because we're not working for ourselves, we're working for the company, and we're working for those lecturers and those teachers and those students, because that's our main goal, to give them a secure environment where privacy is a main thing.
Very good. Thanks, Rick. Martin?
Well, in Denmark, we were quite informed about the NotPetya attack in 2017, which, among others, hit the logistic company Maersk quite heavily, and that was an additional eye-opener to the area for my board of directors. So we definitely got the attention, being a large Danish enterprise, being targeted that hard as Maersk did. What we have seen is that planning, both short-term and long-term, have the ability to get the buy-in for the board, because then they can put in the budget, know the investment the years to come. So we have developed a security operating model where we twice a year re-evaluate our roadmaps on various areas, both technology, outsourcing, people and services, so that we see we are in sync with the current threat picture. So that gives us the possibility of presenting the next year's investment for the board, so they can prioritize the budgeting, and that had helped us a lot, so that we know the plan for the years to come. We're not there yet. We are still quite green in the area, but we have the plan. We know where the end goal is. to go from the reactive approach to cyber security incidents to the more proactive, so that we are prepared when incidents like or security events like WannaCry and other things occur.
Great. Well, thank you for that, and I'd like to thank each member of the panel. Thank you, Martin, Frick, and Richard. Thank you very much for your insights, and we wish you the best of, I won't say luck, but the best of success with your business transformation projects and keeping your organizations safe. So with that, thank you very much indeed for joining the session, and enjoy the rest of Cisco Live and all that Barcelona has to offer. Thank you very much.